She's definitely the biggest one, and that's because she hogs all the feed. Hey guys, I'm Evan and welcome to Country View Acres. So today we're going to be inspecting our feed carts. We got these filled up about 3 weeks ago, and we want to check, see how the feed is being stored, see if we got any spoilage. So what we do know is that it is getting wet behind the door. So between the door and the side of the wagon here, there's about a 1/4 inch gap between there. So water just freely goes behind this door. It's getting all of the feed wet in this location. But what we don't know is we don't know how it looks everywhere else in the wagon. So around here we run between 80 and 95% humidity, and it's very humid here. So in the evenings, actually as soon as the sun goes down, about 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, everything starts getting wet. And in the morning, all of our vehicles are wet, all the farm equipment's wet, everything around here is wet from the heavy dew we get every night. So what we don't know is that happening on the inside? So is it condensating on the inside and then getting our feed wet? It could be condensating on the wagon, could be condensating on the underside of the tarp. So we don't know if that is happening. So we're gonna go ahead, pull this tarp off and see what it looks like in the rest of the wagon. So I am using these really light duty bungee cords. I find that they don't pull too hard on the tarp. You get some of them heavy bungees and they'll pull so hard they'll start ripping holes in the tarp, and you don't want that. Just get up here and see what it looks like. I think it's a lot easier using a step ladder than these built-on ladders. All right. Oh my, the feed looks really good. It actually does. I don't see any spoilage whatsoever. It must be just around the door. So on top of here, all the feed is dry. Everything looks really good. You can see right here in front of the door where, of course, it's gravity feeding down into the door, but this is all very dry stuff. So it looks like the tarp, everything's fine with the tarp. It's not condensating on the inside, so that is a good sign. So I know there was a lot of concerns out there from people about the tarp that I was using. They wanted to make sure I wasn't using the cheap polypropylene tarp. Now this is a polypropylene tarp, but it is the heavy duty version. I think it has like a better coating on it, and you can't see through it. This is a lot heavier than the cheap one. I can take you over to the chicken tractor. It's got a cheap one on it. You can see light through it. You can poke your finger right through it. I mean, it's brittle as can be. And I did not use the cheap one. This is a heavy duty one. Now, the vinyl tarps are the best. The best you can get is a heavy duty vinyl tarp, but you got to pay for it, and they're fairly expensive. So I think my biggest concern with this style of tarp is just to be gentle with it, not to poke a hole in it or rip it, and just try to be careful. Other than that, I think it's going to stand up to the wind and the rain for several months. So right now, the only way we know that water is getting in is through this doorway, and we just can't seal that up because the door needs to work. So our tarp that we bought was a 10 by 14, and it comes to down about here. And we really needed, I think if we would have bought a bigger tarp, the tarp would have came down past the door. We wouldn't have had this problem. So I should have bought a bigger tarp. But I think to do that, I'd have to buy probably around a 10 by 20 or a 12 by 20 tarp to cover that and to get the tarp to hang down, you know, this far. And then we would probably have minimal water getting in the feed cart. So I did have a lot of comments that I should have bought the heavy duty vinyl tarps to cover our feed, because if water got in here and it spoiled, you know, most of the feed in this wagon, or 50% of the feed in the wagon, that would be hundreds of dollars. And I understand that, but the problem with the heavy duty vinyl tarps is they are very expensive. And I know that they last several years. They're the best thing you can buy. So this cart is actually 6 inches shorter. So if I've only bought a 10 by 18 tarp for this one, it would be $158.99. 10 by 20 vinyl tarp for that one is $176.99. So no tax, buying it on the internet, no tax, only shipping. That came to a total of $366.33. So that is a big price tag for 2 tarps. And I just didn't want to spend that amount of money my first year because I don't know if I'm gonna keep storing feed in these. I wanted to see how it worked first. This is like the trial year, right? We're testing it for the first time to see if we like it. So I didn't want to spend a lot of money on tarps. So that is a big price to bite off the first year. And it's a good thing I didn't do it because I would have spent a lot of money and I would have bought the wrong size tarp. So right now I'm not gonna go spend the money on another tarp. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna tarp this back up and we're actually gonna store it in the barn. I've got room for both of these wagons to be able to store in this barn. Well, I gotta make some room, but we're gonna fit them in the barn. We're gonna get them under roof and I think we won't have any problems the rest of the season getting water in the doors. So this barn has 2 doors on the front and it has 1 door on this east side. I would prefer that they be all on the front. This one's a little hard to get to. So it'll be a little hard to back a wagon in here, but I think we'll be able to do it. I just need to clean it out first. So in my experience, I find that it's easier if you want to back up one of these wagons, it is easier to do it by pushing it with the front of the tractor. You can see what you're doing better to be able to steer the wagon and get it where you're going. That's why I ended up putting a hitch in the front of this hay spear attachment. So we're going to try to back this wagon up or push this wagon. We're going to try to push it back here. We got to do a really tight 90-degree turn and try to get it to go into this door. And it is going to be a tight fit because there's still a little bit of stuff in here. And the doorway is really short. I think we only got about 6 inches of clearance, but we're going to try to get this pushed in here and hopefully we don't tear anything up. We're getting there. All right, we got the first feed cart in here and this was the toughest one. So I did the hard one first. I do have enough room to get a bucket under the chute and to, load a bucket and walk through this way here to the pigs. But it's a fairly tight fit on this side. So hopefully you guys can see the advantage of having that on the front of the tractor. Even when I was completely 90 degrees to that wagon, I was able to, go forward and turn right and then back up to the left and forward and turn right, and I could still move it sideways with the tractor and just walk it in there. And it was slow going. I mean, I had it in a low gear, just taking the time to get it in there. And it just helps a ton being able to do that with the front of your tractor. So the other tractor, the Alice Chalmers, it has a hole drilled in the bucket where I can pin a wagon with the bucket and do the same thing. And then a lot of people will use pallet forks and they will drill a hole through their pallet forks where they can pin the front of a trailer to a pallet fork. So there's some cheap alternatives if you guys want to try doing this with the loader of your tractor. Now, I will say if you use the bucket of your tractor, you're not going to get quite 90 degrees to it because the sides of the bucket will hit. Probably the pallet forks are one of the easier things to do it to, but it will weaken the point of your fork. It may get bent easier. So this is the last feed cart to put in the barn. This has got our steer feed in it. Now I did lift up the tarp on this and shine a flashlight inside, and it is dry under the tarp as well, but it does have the same spoilage or getting wet around the doorway, same as the other one does. But we're gonna hook this one up to the tractor, and we're gonna go ahead and get that in this bay of the barn right here. And it looks like it's good timing because it's gray back there. We may get some rain here pretty soon. Well, there we go. The last feed wagon stored away, out of the weather. Moment of truth. See if it moves. All right. We're good. Well, I will say the barn is looking pretty full with the green feed cart here. We've got the square baler here, and then we've got the red feed cart over on this side. And then we've got this side back here is all our hay bales, our square bales. And then the middle is just construction material. There's a bunch of old barn wood in there. There's a bunch of barn metal. And then there's all my wood that I had from woodworking. You know, all the oak and cherry, and there's some mahogany. There's a bunch of different things that I've got stacked up there. Some lumber from woodworking. Haven't been able to do any woodworking really since we moved out here. Once the workshop gets done, I'm hoping that'll be like a new winter thing, is be able to work on tractors and do some woodworking in the wintertime. But the barn, the barn's pretty full now. Well, I just felt a few raindrops, so it's probably gonna rain here pretty soon. I think we got this done just in time. So I'm probably gonna find something to do in the workshop the rest of the day, find something inside to do. So overall, I'm happy that we opened everything up and we found that our feed was not spoiled. We didn't have a huge amount of spoil, just around the door was getting wet. But we did find out that our tarps are too small. So so lesson learned on that one. Definitely buy a bigger tarp if you're gonna do this. Try to get one to get down past the top of the door. But we got our feed carts stored away inside. We shouldn't have any problems the rest of the season. So I think that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. We're getting there.